If we were to see the loss of further Palestinian life as a result of a ground operation in Rafah specifically, are there consequences for Israel that you would support?
Well, as of this point, I believe Hamas broke a ceasefire on October 7th. And so my steadfast support for Israel, I've made very, very clear. I think thousands of Israelis were killed on October 7th. And as a result of that, we've seen this ongoing war and devastation to the entire region, which I think is absolutely terrible. I was in Israel when Russia invaded Ukraine. I've been watching very closely how all of these conflicts are playing out geopolitically around the world. That's what I'm really concerned on. And the work I'm doing in Congress here is going to be to deter any future conflict. I think the Biden administration's weakness is why we've seen many of these foreign adversaries be emboldened in the first place. And so my goal will be to stand with our freedom-loving allies around the world. And I think that's a good investment for U.S. taxpayers.
Of course, we have already seen your colleagues in the House as well as in the Senate passing supplemental aid, not just for Israel, but Ukraine as well. It took quite some time, and potentially we could still be dealing with the ramifications in your chamber. As one of your colleagues, Congresswoman Majorie Taylor Green, has suggested, because Ukraine aid went to the floor and she doesn't agree with how Mike Johnson has conducted himself in terms of cooperation with the Democrats, that she could force this motion to vacate vote this week. When are you bracing for that to happen?
Yeah. Well, I know that she is currently in meeting with the speaker right now, but I can tell you this, that I think Mike Johnson has done an impeccable job of leading our conference, our Republican conference, through a very, very challenging time, a very historically narrow majority. And I think we need to notch as many conservative wins as we can this year. So I do not support a motion to vacate. I didn't support the one in October for Kevin McCarthy for the speaker, and I do not support moving forward with a motion to vacate now. I think it would fail miserably. It'll be tabled on the floor, and I think that's embarrassing for them right now. We should be moving forward with our priorities, not being focused on the chaos and dysfunction that is apparently ruling this place. That's what I ran against, was coming here to actually get things done. So I'm hopeful that they're able to have a good conversation, and hopefully we can just move forward.
Well, there's a question as to what extent the speaker would be able to move forward, even if this was tabled with the help of Democrats. If it's Democrats that have to step in and save him, how weakened would he be as a leader for your conference?
I don't see him as being weakened. I think he made some decisions, and he's always leveled with members about where things are at and why he's making those decisions. As he calls it, he's going to make a play call. We saw him really step up a few weeks ago and take that initiative, and I respect that, and I know a number of members of our conference respect that. So, again, I'm hopeful in this historically narrow majority that we can hopefully notch some good wins going forward, because we have a wide open border. We have policies that are impacting inflation every single day, driving up costs for American consumers. That's what I hear about on the ground when I'm home in the district in Iowa.
Well, you speak, Congresswoman, of wanting to notch a few more wins. There, of course, is a question as to what legislatively will be accomplished between now and the election. But I know there are a few specific issues you want to pursue, including, given your role on the Select Committee on Competition with China, on delisting Chinese companies with ties to the Chinese military from U.S. exchanges. Why is that important?
Yeah. This is a huge national security concern, and frankly, I can't think of a worse investment for American dollars than funneling that money right to the CCP. So Heisai is one of the companies that I have specifically targeted. They're on a DoD blacklist. We should not be doing business with them, with our U.S. military. So frankly, if they're on any kind of those blacklists, they should not be listed on an American stock exchange, plain and simple. Heisai was able to raise $190 million on their IPO. That money went right back to the Chinese Communist Party. It went right back to their facility to ramp up production and research and development of technologies that will then be used potentially against American forces. So I think this is an incredible national security risk. It's why I wrote a letter to Chair Friedman at the NASDAQ to try to get them to delist Heisai from the exchange.
So if you were to take, Congresswoman, an effort like that together with legislation that already has become law as part of that supplemental package I was referring to earlier, the divest or ban bill for TikTok, does that together not send a signal to China that Chinese companies do have fear potentially about doing business in the U.S. and what could happen in retaliation in return to U.S. companies trying to do business in China?
Yeah. Well, I think this speaks to all investors that you should be wide open with your eyes about what is going on here. American dollars are being funneled through the CCP to those causes, to be used against us, to advance their military. Specifically, Heisai is a LiDAR company. They control about just under about 50% of the world global share for LiDAR technology. China has a policy where they require their companies to turn over information to them. So again, be wide open and clear about the investment there. It's why we've been talking about strategic decoupling and de-risking for American investors, because I think people need to be very clear that China could make the decision and on the flip of a coin just say, hey, we're not going to allow Americans to have access to their assets over in China. They could say, hey, we're not going to allow them to have entrance to these facilities anymore. I mean, they could do that overnight. So I think that we just need to be very, very clear about the risks to American investors here, and it's why I've been so passionate about this issue.
Well, in the spirit of clarity, Congresswoman, you just said they're decoupling, which is a phrase that this administration, the Biden administration, has actively tried not to use. The suggestion that they are diversifying, yes, decoupling, no. Should decoupling be the policy of the United States?
Well, notice I said strategic decoupling and de-risking. So we need to be thinking about the sectors that we should not have those liabilities in China. One area, for instance, pharmaceutical medications. I actually just introduced a bill to try to decrease our dependence on animal feed additives, a lot of the vitamins and minerals that are added to feed. If China was to, say, cut off those supplies, our food production would plummet here in the United States. So it's strategic decoupling and de-risking where we can, and that should be the policy of the United States.